On a night when the moon hid behind thick, restless clouds, a child was born in the village of Umidike, a land surrounded by ancient forests and red earth paths that remembered every footprint ever laid upon them. The wind howled like a mourning widow, and dogs cried into the darkness as if they sensed what humans did not. That night, Mwaniebuf came into the world, but her arrival was not a blessing, it was a price. Her mother, Olama, was a gentle woman known for her kindness and soft laughter. Throughout her pregnancy, she often complained of strange dreams, dreams of fire, of old women chanting beneath iroko trees, of a baby crying with eyes glowing like embers. The village midwives whispered among themselves, but no one dared speak openly. When labor came, it was fierce and unnatural. Olama screamed until her voice broke. The lamps flickered violently. Just as the child let out her first cry, Olama went silent. Blood pooled beneath her, and before anyone could pray or scream for help, her spirit slipped away like smoke at dawn. The baby lived, the mother died. The elders murmured in fear. They said, "A child who takes her mother's breath with her first cry will one day take many others." With Olama gone, the baby had nowhere to go, except to Agodimoni, her maternal grandmother. Agodimoni was not an ordinary woman. She lived at the far edge of the village where the forest swallowed the land. Her hut was surrounded by bones, some animal, some not. Children were warned never to pass her path, and women crossed themselves whenever her name was spoken. She was known as a witch of terror, a woman who fed on hatred and bitterness. Crops failed where she walked. Quarrels followed her presence. Men who offended her often fell sick mysteriously, yet when Agodimoni was told that her daughter had died and left behind a baby girl, she smiled a slow, wicked smile. "So," she said, "the vessel has arrived." That very night, she took the newborn into her hut. As thunder roared, she placed the baby on the bare floor and drew strange symbols around her with chalk and ash. She whispered incantations older than the village itself, calling upon spirits that lived between worlds. The baby did not cry. Instead, she laughed, and Agodimoni knew. Possession of the innocenters Mwaniebuf grew. Strange things followed her. At age 3, she spoke in full sentences, words too heavy for a child. At 5, animals avoided her. At 7, her eyes sometimes changed color in the night, glowing faintly like burning coal. Agodimoni began the rituals. She bathed the girl with water fetched at midnight from forbidden streams. She fed her food mixed with bitter herbs and powdered bones. She whispered poison into her ears. "People hate us," she told her, "the village fears us. They will never love you. So you must rule them." Slowly, Agodimoni possessed her granddaughter, not just with magic, but with hatred. The girl's spirit was bent, twisted, reshaped. Mwaniebuf became arrogant. She no longer greeted elders. She mocked other children. When someone angered her, their belongings would go missing, or they would fall sick without reason. Fear began to walk behind her like a shadow. By the time she was 12, Mwaniebuf could summon things she did not fully understand. She could call winds. She could send dreams of terror. She could see spirits standing where others saw nothing. Agodimoni trained her relentlessly. 80 nights, they danced naked under the moon, chanting spells. They offered sacrifices to unseen beings. The forest itself bent toward the girl, as if recognizing her authority. The villagers suffered, children fell ill. Farms dried up. Marriages collapsed. Whenever disaster struck, eyes turned toward the forest hut, but no one dared confront them. They said, "A witch trained by another witch is more dangerous than death itself." Yet, beneath the arrogance and power, something fragile still lived inside Mwaniebuf, a buried innocence, crying silently. Sometimes, she dreamed of her mother. Olama appeared in white, standing far away, reaching out, crying, "Come back." Her mother whispered, but each time, Agodimoni would wake her before dawn and force her into deeper rituals, sealing the girl's soul further into darkness. Eventually, Mwaniebuf stopped dreaming of her mother. The last light inside her dimmed. She embraced her power fully. She became ruthless. People began calling her names, unknown to them both. The village oracle had spoken a prophecy in secret. The girl born of death will either destroy the land or redeem it, but only if love reaches her before hatred consumes her completely. But love was far away, and hatred had already made a home in her heart. When the girl called Noni Buff turned 16, the forest no longer satisfied her hunger. Her grandmother, Agodi Noni, had grown old, her back bent like a cursed branch, her voice now a whisper carried by bitterness. Yet her eyes still burned with the same hatred. The village has grown small for you, the old witch said one night, grinding herbs with trembling hands. Your power needs noise. It needs people. Go where hearts are crowded and faith is weak. That was how Lagos entered the girl's destiny. Noni Buff was sent to Lagos under the pretense of helping a distant relative, Auntie Monarchy, a struggling trader who sold fabrics in the market. The woman had lost her husband and needed help at home. When Noni Buff arrived, Lagos welcomed her with chaos, honking buses, shouting traders, electric lights that never slept. The city was loud, alive, careless. Auntie Monarchy welcomed her warmly. You are safe here, my child, she said, holding the girl's cold hands. This city will give you a new beginning. But Noni Buff did not believe in beginnings, she only believed in the ending. Auntie Monarchy enrolled her in a private secondary school filled with girls from good homes, girls who laughed freely, braided their hair neatly, and spoke with confidence. From the very first day, Noni Buff stood apart. She did not greet. She did not smile. She did not speak unless forced. Her eyes followed everyone, quiet, calculating. In class, she always finished last. Her books were empty. Her test scores were poor. Teachers shook their heads in disappointment. She is dull, one said. She is stubborn, said another. She may be slow, they concluded. They did not know she was watching. Nights of revenge. Any teacher who raised a hand against her, punished her, or insulted her intelligence paid the price. 80 nights, while Lagos slept, Noni Buff sat upright on her bed, eyes wide open. She whispered ancient words that did not belong in a city of concrete and prayer houses. One teacher woke with sudden paralysis. Another lost her voice for days. One collapsed in class and never returned. The school blamed stress. Noni Buff smiled for the first time. The students who LAUGHD girls whispered behind her back, village girl. Strange. Cursed. Those who laughed fell sick mysteriously. One developed strange rashes. Another began having terrifying dreams. Some failed suddenly, forgetting everything they once knew. Fear crept quietly through the school corridors, and then Noni Buff began her favorite game. She studied the proud ones, the popular girls, the class leaders, the ones who mocked others. She offered them cherries, bright, sweet, harmless looking. They are from my village, she said softly. When they ate them, something entered them, their attitudes changed. Their tempers worsened. Their arrogance grew unbearable. They became cruel, disrespectful, divided from their parents. The school slowly turned into a place of conflict and sickness, and still, no one suspected the quiet girl who always came last. Then Zainab arrived. Zainab was everything Noni Buff was not: brilliant, calm, humble. She topped every class effortlessly, yet helped others freely. She laughed without mocking and spoke without pride. Most importantly, Zainab prayed. She prayed before class. She prayed quietly during breaks. She prayed when mocked. She prayed when praised. Her mother was known as a prayer warrior, a woman who woke at midnight to pray, who fasted regularly, who taught her daughter one thing above all else: when you pray, no darkness can sit with you. Noni Buff felt it immediately. An irritation. A burning. A war she could not see but could feel. Jealousy grew inside her like poison. One afternoon, she approached Zainab with a cherry. Zainab smiled politely but hesitated. My mother taught me not to eat things without praying, she said gently. She prayed. The cherry fell from her hand and turned black on the floor. Noni Buff staggered back as if struck. That night, she tried again, from the shadows, but as she whispered spells, a stronger voice rose from another house. Zainab's mother was praying, not softly, not fearfully, but with authority. Chains broke. Darkness screamed. The room shook. For the first time since her birth, Noni Buff felt pain, real pain. She screamed as invisible fire surrounded her. The powers planted in her by Agodi Noni were exposed, torn apart, burned. By morning, she was found unconscious. When Nwanyebuf woke, she felt empty. No whispers. No voices. No darkness answering her call, just silence. She had been destroyed, not her body, but the power that fed on hatred. The school later learned the truth. Auntie Monarchy wept. The village forest far away went silent. The morning after Nwanyebuf collapsed, the school was no longer the same, teachers whispered. Parents demanded answers. Students pointed fingers. The truth, long hidden, finally crawled into the open like a wounded snake. The girls who had eaten the cherries began to confess, crying, shaking, speaking of strange dreams, voices, and a quiet girl who always watched them. One mentioned the cherries. Another mentioned the night terrors. Another spoke of seeing Nwanyebuf standing alone, smiling when others fell sick. Fear turned into anger. The school authorities acted swiftly. Nwanyebuf was summoned. She stood before the principal, her head lowered, her uniform hanging loosely on her thin frame. For the first time, there was no power around her, no spirits whispering, no darkness to hide behind. You are a danger to this school, the principal said sternly. We cannot keep you here. She was expelled in disgrace. Students watched as she packed her few belongings. Some spat insults. Some crossed themselves. Some simply stared. No one said goodbye when Auntie Monarchy heard what happened. Her heart hardened. What kind of child are you? She cried. I brought you into my house with love. Nwanyebuf tried to speak, but the words would not come. Fear had replaced arrogance. You have brought shame into my life, her aunt continued. People are already talking. I cannot keep you here. That night, her small bag was placed at the door, the lock turned, the lights went off, and just like that, Nwanyebuf was alone in Lagos. Lagos streets are not kind to the weak. She slept under shop canopies, hungry and shaking. Cars passed her like she did not exist. Rain soaked her clothes. Hunger gnawed at her bones, but something dark still lingered inside her, not power, but habit. She remembered her grandmother's teachings. Even when stripped, hatred can still destroy. With the little money she begged, she bought apples, red, shiny, innocent-looking. At night, she whispered curses into them, pouring the last fragments of bitterness in her heart into the fruit she began to sell. Apple. Fresh apple. People bought from her out of pity. A man ate one and fell ill by evening. A woman who bought two lost her small business within weeks. A boy who mocked her and swallowed an apple became homeless months later. No one connected the dots. Nwanyebuf watched silently. The apples went down throats. Lives fell apart, and something inside her felt powerful again, not strong, but cruelly satisfied. She told herself, if the world rejects me, I will reject the world. One afternoon, under the harsh sun, she saw a man approaching. He wore simple clothes. He walked calmly. His eyes were clear. A man of God. Nwanyebuf felt it immediately, unease. The apples trembled in her tray. She forced a smile. Sir, by apple, she said softly. The man stopped. He looked at her, not at the apples, but at her soul. These are not fruits, he said quietly, they are vessels. Her heart skipped. She stepped back. I don't know what you are saying. The man dropped his bag and lifted his hands. In the name of Jesus, he said firmly, every hidden darkness, come to light, he prayed. Nwanyebuf screamed. Memories flooded her mind, her mother's death, her grandmother's hurt, the forest, the nights of chanting. The hatred poured into her spirit. She fell to the ground, shaking violently. People gathered. The apples rolled onto the street and rotted instantly. The man continued praying, Spirit of bitterness, leave her. Spirit of destruction, leave her. Every covenant made in ignorance, break. Something tore loose inside her. She cried, not the cry of anger, but of grief. For the first time, she saw herself clearly. Between sobs, she confessed everything. My mother died when I was born. My grandmother possessed me. I destroyed people. I enjoyed their pain. Her voice broke. I am tired, she whispered. I don't want this life again. The man placed his hand gently on her head. Grace has found you, he said, not because you deserve it, but because God still wants you. He prayed again, and the darkness left. Nwanyebuf lay still for a long time. When she rose, she felt light, empty, but peaceful. The street felt different. The air felt clean. She cried openly, not caring who watched. The man helped her up. You will need time, he said. Restoration is a journey. She nodded. For the first time since birth, she bowed, not in fear, but in humility. After the day she was delivered on the street, Nwanyebuf was taken in by the man of God and a small church community. They washed her, clothed her, fed her, and gave her a corner to sleep in. But deliverance did not erase memory. 80 nights, when the city slept, she lay awake staring at the ceiling. Her body was free, yet her mind was crowded with faces: teachers who suffered, students who fell sick, strangers ruined by apples she cursed with her own lips. Guilt became her new companion. She prayed, but her prayers were shaky, uncertain, filled with tears more than words. I don't know how to live clean, she often whispered. All I know is how to destroy. The man of God warned her gently. Freedom is real, he said, but the enemy you serve does not release vessels easily. The past will try to return. She did not understand, yet. One night, the air in her small room changed. It became heavy. Cold. Unfriendly. She woke suddenly and saw footprints of ash on the floor, leading from the door to her bed. Her heart began to race. Then she heard a voice, not loud, not angry, but familiar. Have you forgotten me so soon? She screamed. Standing in the corner of the room was Agodimoni, not old, not weak. She appeared younger, stronger, her eyes burning like fire trapped in a skull. You think prayers can erase blood? The witch hissed. You were born through death. You belong to me. Nwanyebuf shook violently. You are dead, she cried. You died. Agodimoni laughed, a dry, cracking sound. Witches do not die easily, she replied. We live in covenants. The room spun, the walls faded, and suddenly, Nwanyebuf was no longer in Lagos. The forest of Abith. She stood barefoot on red soil. The forest surrounded her, the same ancient trees, the same whispering wind. The hut stood before her, intact, untouched by time. A grandmother walked around her slowly. This is where you were made, Agodimoni said. This is where you were crowned. Visions flooded her mind. She saw herself as a child, laughing during rituals. She saw villagers crying. She saw her arrogance. She saw blood on her hands, not literal, but real. You enjoyed it, the witch whispered. You loved power. Nwanyebuf fell to her knees. Yes, she sobbed, but I don't want it anymore. Agodimoni's face twisted with rage. You cannot reject what flows in your blood. The last attempt to claim Echia. The forest darkened, spirits gathered, shadows without faces, voices without bodies. Take her back, they chanted. Agodimoni raised her hands. Choose, she commanded. Return to who you were, or remain broken forever. The temptation came like a wave. Power. Control. Fearless existence. For a moment, Nwanyebuf felt the old pull, the familiar darkness reaching for her. Then she remembered something new. Prayer, not perfect words. Not loud shouting, just truth. The cry that shook the covenant. She lifted her head. I was born in darkness, she said through tears, but I choose light. She began to pray, not memorized prayers, not church language, but a broken cry from the soul. God, if you are real, if forgiveness is real, save me from myself. The forest shook. A wind rushed through the trees. Agodimoni screamed, no. She is mine. But another voice spoke, gentle, firm, unstoppable. Nwanyebuf. She turned. Her mother stood there, Olama, dressed in white. Oh. Peaceful, my child, she said softly. I paid with my life, but you do not have to pay with yours. She stretched out her hand. Come. The breaking of the final CHAI in Agodimoni shrieked and lunged forward, but a wall of light rose between her and the girl. The spirit scattered like smoke. The hut cracked. The forest split. Covenants shattered. The witch screamed one last time as she was pulled backward into darkness. Her power finally ended. You have lost her, Olama declared, and the forest vanished. Awakening in the CIT. Nwanyebuf woke up screaming. The church room was filled with people praying. The man of God stood over her. It's over, he said quietly. The final chain is broken. She cried uncontrollably. Not in fear, but in release. Something ancient and heavy had finally lifted. The girl who walked free from that day, the dream stopped. And no voices. No shadows. No forest, only healing, slow, painful, real. Nwanyebuf began to serve quietly. She learned to read properly. She returned to school later through adult education. She helped other broken girls, runaways, abused children, those marked by darkness. She never hid her past. I was dangerous, she told them, but mercy is stronger than evil. Final words. The girl who was born through death did not die in darkness. She confronted her past. She rejected her inheritance of hate. She chose repentance, and in choosing light, she became something greater than power. She became free. The end.